Off and running on this getaway Saturday edition of Gulfstream Park West today. Good to have you with us. Acacia Courtney, Jason Blewett, live from our Gulfstream studios. We are down to 21 races here at the meet, Acacia.
It's pretty crazy the last couple of days here of the meet before we start the championship meet next Saturday, 1 week from today on December 2nd across town at Gulfstream Park. But we do still have today and tomorrow to get through. And tomorrow, Jason, big day.
Oh, you got to get involved in those multi-race wagers. I love the tagline. It's all got to go. Get your share. We're talking about the High Five, the Rainbow Six, and the Late Pick Five as well. No carryovers going into that championship meet across town at Gulfstream Park, so make sure you fire up the wagering account or join us on track or over at Gulfstream Park in Silks for tomorrow's closing day card at GPW. Now, as far as just diving into a beautiful Saturday afternoon, I mean, you want to talk about pristine conditions for thoroughbred racing. We have got that, and we'll spice up your day, hopefully, with a little early pick five action.
Yes, we will try. We do have a carryover in the Super High Five starting in the first race today, but it also kicks off race number 1 with the 50-cent early pick five. The biggest question for me is, can Tide of the Desert control the pace? Because I think that this is the horse that has some speed and I think is potentially one of the strongest in-form horses. But I used a couple others in here to start things off. Second race going with 3 as well. You've got a big drop for Artie's Bourbon Girl, as well as some others kind of strong recency angle side as well. Just 2 deep in the third race, you'll have a short price on Mr. Bell. Race number 4, this is where I like some value for sure. The 1-2 horses, Mario's Revenge and High Dandy, I think are going to be good prices and have a big shot as well. 4th race will be my price play. And then the 5th race, we have a rematch between Big Money Machine and Lucky Kitten. I'll use both of those.
Plenty of turf with that rematch coming up. The old 311 for Acacia in that cash-out leg. And by the way, even after scratches, 111 entries spread throughout the card. I mean, if you like big fields and wide-open, tough races, GPW is undoubtedly the place to be today. Now, as far as the first race is concerned, and as far as heading into the day, we don't know how the turf condition or turf will be playing. Obviously, speed has been paramount on the grass, and clearly I think that's what you were getting at in mentioning you're wondering if Tide of the Desert can control things up front.
Yes, he's kind of rated back off of the pace in his last couple of starts, but I really do think he's a much better horse when he can show speed. That's how he broke his maiden back in May. He has apprentice Nicky Figueroa in the saddle once again. I hope they take advantage of that weight allowance and just send. And
Nicky's ridden pretty well here over the last week or so. He's picked up a few wins. I picked a kind of a goofy horse, and I figured, you know what? I really like the 2. Evidently, a lot of people did. Cape Force last time out because he was bet off the board as kind of a wise guy horse. He didn't run at all, steadied out a little bit into the far turn. I said, you know what? He's got good connections, a good post, and he can get himself in the game early on. So I'll try to shake things up in a race where, again, aside from the pace situation, trip and racing luck are going to be very paramount.
Very much so, and that's certainly something to keep an eye on. As you said, quite a few turf races today, and it really does look like being up close is where you want to be.
All right, and on to the main track as we get on to Saturday 2nd. These are 3 and up Filly Mare 6250 claimers. Another good-sized field here as we cash out the early double. And you and I, well, we've got an agreement here. Victor Barboza and Edgar Zayas with the 2 Grand Chama.
And that's about all we agree on in this race, which is pretty funny because there is a lot happening in here. Grand Chama just has recency on his side, as I was alluding to earlier. Last couple of races were taken off of the turf. They're going to keep her on the dirt, though I think she's a better dirt horse. The fact that Edgar gets the call today, I think, are certainly all good things.
Now, for second, I have got Jorge Navarro's runner in the race, and this is the weekend in which the proverbial floodgates open up for that barn here in South Florida. I think a dozen races combined between today and tomorrow at Gulfstream West for Jorge Navarro, who's got the 4 Don't Tell Vanessa. I obviously went with the 2-4 on top. You've got Loving Valentina, who is coming out of a victory and has a trainer I think can make some noise in the first race at a price in Ruben Gracida.
You use Ruben Gracida in the opener. I'm going to use him in race number 2. This is a horse that just tries no matter where she's running. She's got some speed as well and had the win over this track last time.
Let's move on to race number 3. We'll keep the pace going here. Maybe not as fast, though, as the turf sprinters coming your way in the third, as it will be run at 5 furlongs on the green. A $10,000 maiden claimer for 3-year-olds and up, and perhaps the shortest price favorite on all of today's card happens to be in the form of the 6, Mr. Bell, owned in part, and in fact the majority owner, the great Eddie Olczyk, who we hope is doing well. We're glad he's fighting the fight, and he's got that cancer in remission, and Peter Walder off the claim.
Yeah, certainly connections you want to root for. And this is a horse that I thought greatly improved on the class drop last time. It was off of the layoff as well. Now first off the claim for a good barn, second off the bench and sticking, going the 5/8 on the turf. So it looks like as far as his form, and if you're going off of that last race, he's the one to beat. He'll be a short price, and that's the question with this race, because a lot of times horses at this level are just so inconsistent.
Sure.
And you never really know what you're going to get.
Right, but I think, and that is a very good point, and it does worry me to an extent, but on the flip side, his comeback race and his first since January was a good effort. Any improvement, or even if he just quite simply runs back to that first out for Walder, he probably just landed in the right field. I like that they just run him back for 10,000. No need to reinvent the wheel. Now, as we move on to race number 4, we're back on the dirt. We have our opening 2-turn race on the main today out of mile and 70 yards. These are 3 and up, 3 lifetime claimers ready to go in race number 4. And for me on top, I actually went with the 7 Browns Gap. Speaking of Nicky Figueroa, who you like back in race number 1, he is picking up the mount, and I think this is a big and key rider change. I like it quite a bit on the 7 Browns Gap, who it's kind of now or never dropping into 62.50. This horse has tangled just quite simply with much better over the last few months.
He has, and he's been primarily on the turf. If you go back to his dart race on July 4th, that was at the 62.50 level, though he got out of the gate kind of awkwardly. He's a better horse when he can show early speed. I feel like I do need to see some improvement from him, though he has been facing better. He's certainly a horse I respect, but I thought on the main track, if this were on the turf, it might be a different. I know this is one of your pets.
Yes.
I know you're a
boys.
fan of him. And he's not, again, at the lower level, sometimes you just don't know what you're going to get with these horses, so he's not the most consistent. But he had a bit of a clunker last time out. His 2 races prior to that, I thought were very good, one of them even a win. If there is any sort of early pace scenario when you have Mario's Revenge, Browns Gap, put the boss back, sort of speed up front, he kind of has that grinding running style for the mile and 70-yard distance.
And Antonio Sano does give a leg up to Juan Carlos Diaz, so that really completes a nice price package there from the rail with the 1 High Dandy. And how about that colt I dialed in, Antonio Unleashed, yesterday in the form of Santiaman? I forgot to look at the figure, the buyer that he got for the race, but man, was he impressive.
Very professional for a debut as well.
Oh, he's definitely bound across town for those Gulfstream Park Stakes races for sure. Might see another Gunnevera in the making. Now, race number 5 as we cash out Acacia's early pick 5, and hopefully you'll be alive as well. We're on the turf for this $8,000 3-and-up claimer at 7.5 furlongs, and another tricky race in which, well, you went with 3-11. I took the 11 on top. That is Lucky Kitten, who is coming out of a win for 8,000, and I said, you know what, Walder just runs this horse back aggressively, but that's the name of Walder's game. I'll take him from an outside post.
Certainly, and his 2 races off the layoff and back in this barn have been very, very good. He had a really nice win last time. He's got early positional speed, which certainly will be the key on this turf course. Misael Jaramillo leading in the jockey standing still by about 10, I think, 9 or 10 wins. But Turf Route's winner last time out. This barn is just 3 for 37 for 8% win over the past 5 years, so certainly can keep them in good form with more than 40% of the time in the money. But I did take a stab in reversing the order, going with the 3 Big Money Machine. He'll need to make up some ground on this turf course, but he likes this turf course.
Yes,
He's run well in his last couple of starts here. He has a win here at Gulfstream Park West as well, so I think that he's kind of one of those horses that can overcome that.
An apt name and a perfect segue as we take a little break, and our Big Money Machine here, the human part, Acacia, will chase the rainbow with all of you after this quick timeout.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet. We are racing.
It's 5 down and 6 to go, and obviously getting into the festive holiday spirit, the soundtrack, well, the sights as well, and the tree lighting across town yesterday over in the Gulfstream Park Village yesterday.
Heard it was pretty popular. Everybody coming out to see the tree lit at Gulfstream Park. It's very festive over there, and of course we are getting ready to head into December. 1 week from today, we will move 8 miles east and go back to Gulfstream Park for the start of the championship meet.
All right, Big Money Machine,
All
what are we
right.
doing in this penultimate Rainbow Six?
Well, I do have a single. It's in Todd Pletcher we trust, as we say. Jumbie Bay. Carryover of nearly $6,000. So starting to build. Of course, they did hit the Rainbow Six last Sunday. We came back to racing yesterday, but we start things off with a really nice 2-year-old maiden special weight. I'll use 3 horses in there. I did include 1 horse with experience in Lisa Mila, but I like a couple firsters. Going to go 3 deep in race number 7. My anchor will be in the 8th with Jumbie Bay. I know it's off a layoff, but I think she meets the right field for the return. 9th race, going to use just 2. I think Devilish Romance and Sober on Sunday are the big 2 in there, and then 3 deep in the last couple of races. The latter part of this card, Jason, is very competitive. Very competitive, so 32-40 for me.
Yes, these races are not layups by any means. As I was writing my analysis, I said, whether you win or lose is irrelevant, who you like is irrelevant, but this is a day I feel pretty firmly in stating that this will not be an endless procession of 7-5 favorites on the board.
We certainly did not have that yesterday.
No, we saw some big prices as well. Not many short prices, and man, there was some chaos on the tote board, including one winner that paid almost $100, and about a $50 winner as well, right?
Yeah, some really good prices yesterday, absolutely.
Now, first-time starters kind of, I think, grab hold of you off the bat in race number 6. Now, granted, in terms of numbers, there's nearly as many who are new face firsters than ones that have raced already, as we do start the Rainbow Six with a group of 2-year-old filly maidens at 5.5 furlongs. And just judging from the riders and the works and maybe even the pedigrees, our top 2 who we have boxed here, the inside horse, the one others will follow, and your top pick, the number 5, Into the Stars, they to me look like the main attractions in this race.
I think they do too, and you have the one others will follow who has the rail, some really sharp work, so you kind of imagine this one might send from the inside post and does get Edgar Zayas up. I did land on Into the Stars. She's by Into Mischief. She's actually half to multiple graded stakes winner Seattle Smooth, who earned more than $1 million on the racetrack, and Chad Summers has had a couple of first-time starters be very successful this meet.
Yeah, Chad's done really well, actually, with those limited starters as he continues to grow and expand his operation now out on his own. I just took, again, the number 1 others will follow. The Jimmy Creed 2-year-olds have been pretty good, like Jimmy Creed, and that one actually brought some decent money as a yearling. Now, moving on to race number 7 as we get on to the opening leg of the late pick 5, a little rundown as to how I hopefully see things here. A $24 play. I stood alone. I needed to pull the trigger somewhere, and that somewhere is Cabin John in race number 11, who, again, being by Gio Ponte out of a dam who's already, who was just an absolute machine. So I'm hoping turf is the answer with Cabin John. Pretty nice spread for the most part. I could have, and believe me, I toyed with singling Jumbie Bay for Todd Pletcher, as that horse starts as a major player, obviously, in race number 8. But as far as the 7th race, this opening leg goes, I feel as though, A, the turf course comes into play, and B, this is a race where you might be able to come up with 5, 6, 7 horses.
It really is. This is a very tricky way to kick off the sequence in here, and I think perhaps the starting point is a horse that we've been waiting to see run back for a while, and that's the one Cunningham Creek. We'll backtrack to his last performance quickly because it was just such a troubled race, and I see you didn't use him at all, but he's the number 6. He's very wide heading into the first turn. Unfortunately, he had to, he's very rank and hard to handle as well if we could just freeze it right there. Again, we're looking at the number 6 in the striped colors, and he's out here having lost some position as we let it roll again, going around the turn. Just a nightmare of a trip from start to finish. He's really a beautiful animal and has just never had some racing luck, even when they tried to run him back on the turf. He's had quite a few races rained off and hasn't been able to run. Still a little bit going on here in the stretch in between horses, but does manage to get second.
A very good effort aesthetically and just on the surface of things. I cannot argue with that. I'm not just and I know he ran great last time. I just don't really care for the Bar Libre race that he's coming out of. And in a big field like this, a rider that's had his struggles and is trying to build some local business, I'd rather wait and see. And I tried to shake things up with the 4 Venezuelan Treasure. If you watch this show or watch this feed on a regular basis, you know I'm a fan of this trainer in this barn, and Oscar Gonzalez. I like the rider Enrico Sarmiento, and she is back on her preferred surface this afternoon. Not a dirt horse. She gets the turf today, and that's good enough for me to try to shake things up in a very wide open 7th race.
I actually do think she liked the dirt 2 starts back. I really liked her as a price there. I think she was in over her head class-wise last time. She fits better here, but her race on the turf 3 back on October 9th should be a big key in here.
I'm hoping it is. I'm hoping that repeats itself. Moving on to race number 8 as we go down the stretch with you on this 11-race card. This one, a $16,000 allowance optional claimer for 3-and-up fillies and mares. And originally on my run-through, I was like, oh, man, Jumbie Bay looks really good. We will give you a little stat here on Jumbie Bay. Todd Pletcher, if you're wondering how these horses are running at GPW, if they need maybe a race, or if his GPW starters over the last 5 years have been more prep associated with moving over to the big track at Gulfstream. Not really the story here, at least in dirt sprints, and Jumbie Bay has got this big move and number going for her today, and she's got some talent too.
She certainly does. Her last race was very, very strong. She is coming off of a layoff, but I think that she has a lot going for her. I know her only win was on a sealed sloppy track, but I do still think she's going to be good today. As far as Stella Performance, it just kind of looks like they're turf, dirt, back and forth, just not really sure what to do with her. She's a big, good-looking filly. I do think she has a lot of talent. Just where does she belong?
I'm hoping it's on the dirt today because I have no qualms with that second behind Rich Mommy, who would probably be an even shorter price than Jumbie Bay. I'll try to pull off the mild upset. I like the post as well with the 8 Stella Performance. But Jumbie Bay, the one they got to get around, and I'm anxious to hear what you'll have to say about her when you lay eyes on her in the walking ring. Now, race number 9 this afternoon is a 2-turn mile race on the grass. It's a Florida bred restricted $16,000 optional claimer, and that early speed, that positional speed, may come to fruition here with the 7 Sober on Sunday, who's got a key rematch with your top pick, and you called them the big 2 when discussing your Rainbow Six, and they're two solid fillies who are consistent, and you get the feeling there's about this much that separates them in the ability department.
There really is. It's really, I think they're very evenly matched in here. Now, Sober on Sunday did run 3rd behind Devilish Romance last time, who was 2nd. It does get Tyler Gaffleone in the saddle today. Sober on Sunday's taken a lot of money in her last couple of starts. I think that these 2 might be a short price in here. Devilish Romance, though, 2nd off the claim. Very popular at the claim box in her last few starts. I think she's one of those horses that's been able to keep her form. She's very solid. 2nd start for this barn and not in for the tag. I think she can move forward. All
right, with good old Amicio is looking to put the finishing touches on a GPW riding title, his first ever in the United States, which would be a great accomplishment, no doubt. All right, race number 10 as we wrap up the action on the main track. Final dirt race today is a 2-lifetime 6250 claimer, and this is a case of me just going back to Knockout Ranger, and we're always honest here on the show. Loved him last time. Didn't think he could lose that race. Thought his grinding running style and the fact that he could stay a mile around 2 turns was a feather in his cap. He was completely empty throughout, but the fact that Edgar stays aboard and this horse wheels back on what, basically 13 days, about 2 weeks between starts, just really made me raise my eyebrows. And I'm just going to stick with my man Easy here, Knockout Ranger, over Warranted, who you have on top.
I'm just hoping Warranted wires the field and just runs away from the rest of them under Jesus Rios. His first race against Winners last time was good. I like him going the mile or the mile 70 yards instead, and that's where he'll stay. All
right, gelding by exchange rate. Little gray action there. Gray Roan in race number 10. All right, race number 11 as we finish things off. The 11th is a $20,000 maiden claiming race for 2-year-olds at 7.5 furlongs. Now, I think the 4 Cabin John obviously going to be favored, but likely, and I like that you took, at least in the win end, a small shot against him, because this horse, there's a lot of appeal, and we'll give you a little rundown of the, how about the bullets first, and a little backstory with this gelding by Gio Ponte, who obviously is by a sire who won 3 Eclipse Awards, was a 2-time turf champion, and was just a monster. His mom Cabin John's mom, was an absolute monster as well on the turf. I'm sure you saw her lifetime record, and you do have a sibling who is a 4-time dirt winner. There's also a big-time stat with Jonathan Thomas and his second-time starters. But the point of you maybe taking a little shot against this horse has all the trimmings of an overbet favorite.
Yes,
right?
It absolutely does. And you can see some great numbers with limited sample size. I think Jonathan's an excellent horseman, and those horses always play the part as well. With that pedigree, you have a horse that went for $20,000, debuted for the $35,000 tag, takes another little drop down to $20 now in his second time running. I think the turf is going to be better too. I'm certainly excited about that. My kind of wise guy pick in here was the number 9, High Flying Guy. I think Leo Espora, his horses get better as they race, especially now this one has 2 races under his belt. He ran on the turf last time, and he set the pace, and that was actually a very tough field that he was facing, and a big field as well. He's half to multiple stakes winner, Biting Star, was 3-time turf winner, and he gets Edgar Zayas.
Ooh, Edgar at a price in the nightcap here, closing things out for our big money machine on the turf. So we'll get Ron Nicoletti in the mix. We'll have a little Chris Griffin calling the races, and we're with everybody and all of you throughout the afternoon. Good stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for joining us in our last weekend at Gulfstream Park West.